All right, Tom, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How have things been going since I saw you last?
It's been a little complicated. I'm having a lot of hard time sleeping and all that. And dreams are very much intense. And I just got a lot going through my mind. So it's just hard to shut down.
Okay. So, what does that look like, a hard time sleeping?
Well, ever since I found my cousin passed away like that, I just have images in my head. And it's just really hard to get them out. And it's just hard also to just kind of think about positive things. I just feel like I'm in kind of a rut and depressed all the time.
Yeah. So, you talk about it's kind of hard to think about positive things. Is that because what we talked about last time?
Yeah.
Kind of
And
change. Go ahead.
yeah, and I mean, I try and stay positive for my daughter just because, she's an inspiration. I want her to have a good life and everything. It's just kind of getting these thoughts and images out of my own head and moving past them is the problem.
So, I hear you say a lot about getting past them and moving them out of your head. Can you talk a little more about that?
I just feel like it's so fresh and ingrained, and just like I said, having these images and going there and seeing them, and it's just not something normal to see. And it's really hard to get these thoughts and images past all this.
What is it like to be in those thoughts and images?
Dark, and it's hard. I can't keep, I don't want to have toxic positivity, so to speak. So I want to face these things, but on the other side, it's just something I don't really want to go through anymore. I wish I could just get them out. And like I said, it's really hard to sleep too. Sleeping is very difficult. I close my eyes and I'll just see like images and all that, and it's not very lighthearted things to try and stay positive on.
Okay. So, what does a successful day look like to you right now? Because I know we've talked in the past about your want to stay busy all the time.
Staying busy is important just because it's good for just lifestyle, but it also allows me to kind of just have other things going on to where I don't think about it. But a good day is obviously when I get good night's sleep. Sleep is obviously important. Waking up, feeling energized, feeling good. Get my daughter out and about in school. Go to work. Come home. Have dinner. Get her to bed. Just very simple stuff. Very simple life stuff.
So, I hear you talking about your daughter a lot.
Yes. Yes, very much so. She's the motivation that keeps us going, keeps me positive, and it's sometimes hard because she's aware that, we've gone through some trauma, but I don't go into too much detail about what I saw, obviously, and she doesn't really know or understand the details of what happened.
Okay.
More?
Yeah.
Well, so obviously it was with a knife, and it was a very bloody scene, so it was just a very gruesome image. That's why I'm having so much hard time just getting past it. She doesn't know any of that. She just knows that he passed away, and she doesn't know the details of it, or that they took their own life, which is hard for a kid to even understand in general.
So, was it her uncle?
Yeah.
Okay, and so she doesn't know the details, but she does know that he passed away.
Knows he passed away. She doesn't know how, and that's the hardest part too for us getting through it, is just because it was a suicide. It's a very selfish thing to do, and we didn't really know it was that bad, so it was really hard to nobody really predicted this in any way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just one day where we just thought everything was smooth, and then, bam.
And you say it was a very selfish thing to do.
Yeah, suicide. Just because I wish we could have talked and communicated more, and I would have known that they were in such a dark place. It's it's just, I wish I could have done more. So I guess there's probably a little guilt on my end throughout all this too, and that's kind of why it's also so hard to get past, just because I wish I kind of had seen more or known more. And so there's just a lot of stuff out there that's just kind of hard to get over.
Yeah. How has your wife been with this? Because I know the last time we met, you guys were having some troubles, and divorce was possibly pending. How has that been? Because I've heard you talk about your daughter.
Yeah, and we obviously want to do what's best for her and stay together if we can. She's been very understanding of knowing the simple fact that we are just here going through something that was very traumatic. So it kind of does put some things in perspective as far as, she knows that we're hurting and wounded, so to speak, from all this. So it kind of realigned our situations and put them in a bigger picture, which was good.
Okay.
Whether we can work through that or not is a different story. We shall see. But I think we're both somewhat willing to try more than what we were before this happened, solely because sometimes a negative thing in someone's life can kind of bring out positives, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I mean, this is relatively a fresh trauma. It was 3 months ago, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of thought, at some point I would be healing from this quicker than I am. But like I said, being the one that found him and had to see all that, that's just really difficult to get over. And again, I wish I would have known that he was suffering as bad as he was too, because you just try and play over different scenarios, like what if I did this, what if I did that, maybe this would have changed something. But in the end, I think we're just overthinking it too much, and it's just kind of like a defense mechanism as far as healing goes.
Yeah, because is there really a timetable on grief?
Probably not, no. I mean, I'm never going to forget this. This is something I'm going to have instilled in my head for the rest of my life and dealing with most of my life. I just don't want it to be as difficult as it is now.
So what I hear you saying is that, your daughter is the most important thing in your world.
Yes.
Worth, working on your marriage for, worth wanting to get yourself better for, but you're kind of just stuck as to how to do that, how to get a better night's sleep, how to get these recurrent negative images out of your head. Am I correct on all that?
Yep. Very much so.
So what do you do, or if you don't currently do it, what can you do as self-care?
Well, I mean, working out and walking would help clear my head. I think the main thing is I got a lot of kind of pent up energy.
What does that mean?
I just think I got a lot built up that it would feel good to get it out, and I think exercise helps with that a lot.
Okay.
Also, with the trouble sleeping, sometimes it's good to just make yourself really tired by exerting yourself really all day, and that way, eventually you're going to fall asleep.
So maybe the exercise is a twofold.
Yeah, I would agree. Plus, also, I want to be around for as long as possible for my daughter, so having a healthy lifestyle is key, but obviously mental health is a big thing too, because I don't want to get stuck in these dark places in my own head either.
Okay, so exercise, which can help kind of release that bodily tension or build up, which can also help with sleep.
Yep.
What are some other things for self-care that you can do?
Time with my daughter.
Yeah, and so you've mentioned that in the past, that these intrusive thoughts, which you kind of called them, don't really happen when you're with your daughter.
No, because I guess I'm just so focused on her. I think downtime is the hardest part with all this, because then your head just starts running, and I'm trying to, focus my thoughts more towards positive things. It's just really hard. The other thing is my cousin and I were close too, so now besides dealing with all this, I don't have that person that was somewhat like, a friend, family member, and supporting. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I'm dealing with this whole traumatic incident, but I also don't even have one of my close people in my life to help me with this now.
Yeah.
And it's also sad too because I thought us being so close that I would have known.
And I keep hearing you say that, and it does sound as though there's some guilt built up there, um, as to, I should have known, or I should have seen clues, and suicide is selfish. So these are some of the things, I've kind of heard you say.
Yeah. It's just hard because you tend to just overanalyze things, and then so it's like little things like maybe that was a sign or a cry for help, and I just didn't pick up on it. You know what I mean? And we talked on the phone frequently. We shot texts. I thought our communication was very common. You know what I mean? We did it a lot.
So if you missed some cues that he wasn't maybe intentionally giving, or was even intentionally giving, is that your fault?
No, I wouldn't say it's my fault. I just think, what if? You know what I mean? What if I would have known that? And I'm not trying to beat myself up. I mean, in the end, he did do this. I didn't force him to do this. I didn't push him to do this. I just thought I knew him better than apparently I did.
And so, research does show that, therapy, so some CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, as well as medication, is typically the best combination for PTSD, or dealing with something as traumatic as finding your cousin, passed away in a bloody mess.
Yeah.
Have you been to a medical doctor?
No. I've just been kind of dealing with it on my own, which, I mean, it feels good to somewhat talk this out with somebody else because, I don't really have many outlets to get this out in an honest manner. You know what I mean?
Right, and I see your daughter frequently, but I haven't seen you in a couple months. So it is wonderful for you to get this out, as you've said. Is going to see a primary care physician or, some sort of medical doctor an option for you?
It's definitely an option, and it's something that I would probably consider more, especially with the sleeping thing. Even if I was able to get something, just because once you don't sleep well, it's like you're tired, so it's really hard to just kind of get out of that routine. You know what I mean?
It's a cycle, right?
It's a cycle. And it's hard, you know what I mean? When you're tired, you're not as positive, or you may be kind of quick to be depressed. You know what I mean?
And I think there's probably some research-based evidence there that, sleep can cause heart racing or lack of sleep, and it can cause, your heart to race or your mind to be blurry and not to be as crystal clear. Our bodies require sleep.
Yep.
And
good sleep too.
Right.
Because like I said, dreams too could become an issue because then I kind of wake myself up, but then I don't really want to go back to sleep because they're just so intense. And it's just, it's not pleasurable.
How are they intense? Tell me more
just
about
the images of stuff, and I'll have dreams like I'm walking in and I see all this blood on the floor and I see their body the way it is, and it's just, it didn't even look like him really. And it was one of those things where I kept having to take like another look, like, is that what's going on? What is this? And
that's hard.
It is. It's really hard. And then again, the other thing is now I'm without one of my closest people in my life too. So it's also learning how to move on from this without that person, even though they did this to themselves.
So are you almost a little angry at him?
Yeah, there's probably a definite mixture of sad, anger. Obviously there's probably hints of depression. again, go back to my daughter though. I don't really face these that much, but they still come out. Like I said, in my dreams or when I'm sleeping and all that. And
So maybe you're not facing them directly,
probably.
but are they still coming through in some way?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. For sure. We don't really talk about this too much because it's like the family's like ashamed and it's such a sad topic to where people don't even know what to say when I see them and they're just sorry, but it isn't something that we voice out a lot at all.
Are there any friends or family members that you are comfortable or are willing to discuss this?
Not too much,
Mm-hmm.
just because, I mean, you know, the other family members that I have are grieving in their own way because it is a sad situation.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't as close to him as him and I were.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of feel like no one can fully relate to what I'm going through because I'm the one who found them. I'm the one who saw all that. These people don't have those images. I do.
Yeah, so maybe definitely some sadness, some anger, some grief, but also some loneliness in this.
I think that's the other part. Going back to we were close, and it's like now I don't even have that resource in my life anymore either. And so I'm just trying to put all this into my daughter and making her sure that I'm doing the best I can for her. She's definitely my motivation to help get past things.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I can only be so good if I'm not my best version of me either. So I don't want this stuff to weigh down on me and then me get depressed even more.
What a great point. You know, as parents, you can only be as great of a parent as you are as a person, right?
Exactly. And so if I'm not my best self, then I obviously can't be the best father for her.
And she is doing well, right?
She is. I do dread the day that she realizes what the truth about what happened though. And I don't want it to be like I lied to her. So
how old is she?
8.
Right. So are you lying to her or is it just not age appropriate right now?
It's not age appropriate, and I get that. It's just when she's 18 and she just starts asking now, like, do I have that conversation? Do I tell her what really happened? As of now, I'm just not going into details about it.
Mm-hmm.
But these are thoughts that I have in my head about future conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we'll just, figure that out when that comes.
Yeah.
But, even she misses them too. Like, we would always hang out, like, here and there if I was watching a game or whichever, and it was fun. You know what I mean? And so we're kind of living a new normal now.
Ethan, was that right? Was
Yeah.
that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she'll bring them up.
Mm-hmm.
She'll be like, she'll just say random things like, remember that time Uncle Ethan did this or that, and it's hard because it's like, sometimes I get sad in the moment, and I don't really want her to see me crying in the moment, but I'm not trying to hide it from her. It's just more, I don't even know how to handle or voice some of this stuff, but I don't want her to forget him either, so I want to keep him alive with our memories and stuff.
Is it okay for her to see you cry though and experience sadness?
Yeah, and she did when this all first happened and all that. It's just I think she's 3 months to a kid's a lot longer than an adult.
Yeah.
To her this has been a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's back in school. She's doing
Was she out of school for some time?
Not long. We didn't want to take her out too much.
I'm just taking a little bit of notes. I just wanted you to know.
You're good.
I wanted to see the last time I saw you. So it has been a while. So I think the last time I saw you was right after this happened.
Yeah.
And she was out of school for a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Going back to my wife and I and the separation, I think that was the other reason why we just really wanted to come together.
Because that happened before this, right?
Yeah, but she knew how close Ethan and I were,
Mm-hmm.
and so we are living in the same house right now, and we're
Okay.
trying to keep a normal structure.
What were some of the problems with you and I can't remember your wife's name.
Isabel.
Isabel.
Yeah.
So what was?
Communication was an issue. We started not communicating too well, and to where we started arguing again, basically on each other's nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want our daughter seeing that stuff. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I just don't want to force something and have like this bad dynamic in the house, and my daughter seeing that and thinking that's normal.
How did your wife feel about the idea of separation?
She was on the same page at first a little bit too, just because she kind of thought it would be good for us to have a break. Big picture, we do love each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think she really wants it. I think it's more we want to get along.
And I know you both want what's best for your daughter.
Well, that too. So we are definitely taking our individual thoughts and feelings out of the picture on this to come together, but in the end, we're going to have to focus on each other too for this to work long term.
Did the situation with Ethan kind of put a pause on the separation?
Definitely. Because she liked him too. He was a good guy. That was the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he wasn't mean. He wasn't a jerk. He obviously had some deep-rooted issues. Because it's also the way he did it too. I mean, with the knife, it was very gory. It was just like a very bloody scene.
And that, you told me before about the thoughts, and it's always with a knife, and
the blood, the images of blood.
Right. And so those thoughts, those flashbacks, the lack of sleep, the recurring nightmares, that's all manifestations, symptoms, whatever you want to call it, of the PTSD, of that traumatic event of finding him.
Mm-hmm. Because it was, I kind of knew something was going on because him and I hadn't chatted for like a day or so, and he wasn't answering my texts, and so I just went there thinking, just went there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I knew something was up because it's like his car was there, everything was there to where it's like, he's got to be in the house. Why hasn't he called me? And then I had a key to the back door, and I went around back, and I saw something on the door, on the floor. That kind of caught my eye, and then I looked, and then I took a double take and walked in that room, and that's when I just found him and the blood and all that. So I then quickly called the police, and then that was just a whole scene too, and it's just a lot.
That's really hard.
We liked hanging out.
Yeah. Did you guys hang out a lot as kids as well?
Yeah. We saw each other a lot more in our adult lives because we were older and we could initiate it, and we wanted to.
Right.
Before, we were based on our parents, and we would see, like every couple of weeks, every couple of months, enough to stay in touch and be really common. We didn't go to the same school or nothing growing up. We're in different towns, but not far.
And similar ages.
Similar ages, all that.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, it's hard.
Yeah.
I wonder what drove him to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's just going back to, I thought we were so close. Like, if you're going through something so difficult, why won't you ask for any sort of help, or why won't you try and talk about it and get it out, or just something?
Why do you think that is?
I don't know if he didn't, I assume he didn't want help. You know what I mean? I think he was probably so in such a dark place, he probably didn't think there was any help. And so therefore that's why he just gave up.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I could have done as far as if he would have told me. These are the things that you constantly run through your head, like all these what ifs.
Could you have done anything?
I like to think I could, but I wouldn't. I guess I wouldn't really fully know.
Yeah.
It depended how he told me. If he just came out and told me, like, look, I'm having suicidal thoughts, that's one thing. But, you know, I don't think anybody thought he would do this. Everybody has sort of life struggles that they go through, but
absolutely,
nobody thinks it's just about giving up. And so it's just different.
So I think some homework for you for this, you know, this week is to think of some other self-care techniques, interventions, whatever you would like to call it, to practice. So what are things that you enjoy? Do you enjoy certain movies? Do you enjoy
sports?
Okay.
Being outdoors.
Because I think you said walking.
Walking.
And I know your daughter tells me about a dog all the time.
A dog.
So walking, getting that energy out, I think that's great. Sports, what sports?
Sports, all football, basketball. It's fun to go to games, all that. That was like kind of one of our common interests. So it almost feels like weird because I don't have my sports buddy right now, but yet I'm still so interested in sports. So it's kind of like you have these like kind of daily reminders that you don't think of at the time, but then it's like, oh, I remember him and I did that, or I remember him and I went to that. And, you know, like you said, the grieving doesn't really have a timetable. And so you kind of get all these like random memories that pop up that normally would have been a good memory, but then you kind of think about it and it's just a sad one now.
But can there still be good memories?
Yes,
definitely.
It's just you're upset.
Right, and it's they're in the past, I guess.
They're in the past, and we're not going to have any more then. That's the other thing. So.
But does that take away from the good times that were?
No, it's just another realization that, you know, there is no more good times with him and I. So now all we have are memories.
That is hard to process.
It is hard. And then you kind of just have the big dark shadow of suicide over it, to where it's like it's still too fresh to look back on some of these memories with just like smiles and joy, because then you quickly are like, but why did he do that?
Right.
Why would he do that? And I just wish he would have thought it through a little more too. I mean, he had to know somebody was going to have to see him and find him, and that's what I was saying. The manner the way he did it with a knife and just like such a bloody scene, it's very violent.
And I think, you know, you mentioned before, he must have just been in that extremely dark place to get to a point where, did he even think of those things? Did he think of the person that was going to have to find him, or the repercussions? Or was the dark place just so dark?
I can only assume it was so dark. You know, he had relationship issues too, and all that. So I think maybe if he would have had like a significant other too, someone to like kind of live for, you know what I mean? He didn't have kids. So he could afford to be selfish, you know what I mean? But you know, it's just funny. I thought if he would have had a significant other, it probably would have helped the situation. I like to believe that, but again, I don't really know.
It's hard.
It's hard.
To process.
It's hard. I see his parents. I'll go and see them and just check in because his mom's a wreck. But, you know, they loved us together, you know what I mean? So she actually is a little bit understanding of what we're going through. You know what I mean? If anyone. But I don't want to go there and just bring up a lot of stuff because I feel like she's grieving too, and it could just be, you know, I just don't want to be negative or try and be positive.
Could you talk to her maybe about good stories, good memories with them?
Yeah, we could, and I know we will. Again, I just think this is all still so fresh still, and
Yeah.
it's just too much.
Right.
But I can only imagine what she's going through too.
Mhm. How is your daughter doing in school?
She's doing good. She's doing good. Like I said, she doesn't know the full detail of how he died.
Right, but
She knows he
still a
died
loss,
and
yeah.
that there was a loss. But we've been trying to kind of keep her as sheltered from the whole reality of it as much as possible.
Mhm.
You know, 8 years old is a unique age.
Yes.
Because they process a lot, and she's very in tune with stuff.
Mhm.
That's why I was wondering this future conversation. Like, for all I know, maybe she knows that something's up, but she just doesn't want to ask.
Mhm. Kids are intuitive.
They are. They are.
But so maybe that conversation, you just put a pin in that for right now, and if she's not, can you let her know that mommy and daddy are here to talk?
Yep, and we ask her like, hey, is there anything you want to talk about? You got any concerns with anything? And no, she doesn't. But she knew we were upset. I was upset. So I think a part of it is she just doesn't want to add to that.
Mm.
So this also goes back to I think she's probably aware that there's something more going on here than what we're leading on.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see down the road. But that's a conversation I'm dreading.
Yeah, but it may not even be anytime soon. It may
Probably
be something
not.
that you put a pin in and you readdress as she gets older and ask questions.
Yeah. And we went through his house. That was the other thing, cleaning out stuff. Like I ended up taking his car because, why not?
Okay.
And we went through some of the stuff and we have pictures, but I don't know what to do with a lot of his stuff. Like I just put it in a bin right now. And
did his parents take any of
they
it?
took some too. We kind of all went through together. And then they donated a lot as well. But, I have I have pictures of us still.
Mm-hmm.
But his actual possessions, I took his one hoodie and all that I just put in my closet, and that's gonna be my hoodie now from him. And like I said, I did take his car too, just because him and I drove around a lot. You know what I mean, going to these events and all that. There's just all these constant memories all the time. You know what I mean? So it's. Again, you don't want to avoid them.
Right.
We will have positive memories with him again. It's just like I said right now, it's just so heavy, you kind of get upset.
Mm-hmm. You mean you'll be able to look back positively on the memories?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're in a tough spot right now with the sleeping and the thoughts, but you sound like you kind of know why. You know what is causing this.
Yeah, but grief is hard, and I just kind of figured him and I would be hanging out till we're old.
So it's that
it's the loss
crush,
side
that
of it too.
dream, yeah. On top of how it happened.
So exactly. You're getting hit by both ends. I'm trying to cope with two different things here, and neither one is easy.
So is seeing a medical physician something you would think of doing?
Yeah, and I think I probably should, just to help have them give me something for sleep.
Cause sounds like that's the biggest hurdle here is sleep.
But when I have these dreams, they're so real. And then I wake up and then I don't want to go back to sleep. So it's almost like I'm fighting it at that point. And it'll be like 2 a.m. and I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go back to bed. And so then I'm up for like an hour or two. Sometimes I won't even go back to bed. And I think I'm kind of just in my own head with that now too. I think I have this fear. It's like, oh, I really hope I don't have bad dreams tonight. and so therefore it's almost like I'm fighting sleep, but I have to sleep.
Right. Because fighting sleep will lead to a whole host of other
All
problems.
other things, and then you can already tell. And
Mm-hmm.
if I don't get a good night's sleep the one night, then the next night, I'm trying to do everything, and then I fall asleep early, and it's not a nice schedule.
So what if you do have a bad dream?
Well, it depends how bad it is, but I mean, I guess the big thing is I wake up
Mm-hmm.
and then I kind of take a deep breath. But a lot of times I'll actually like get out of bed
Mm-hmm.
and I'll go get like a glass of water or something, and I'll kind of, because my heart will be pumping.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like I gotta like calm down. But sleep is supposed to be pleasurable and
Mm-hmm.
a relaxing thing, and it kind of turned into not relaxing.
Like those physical symptoms are coming
so it's
through.
like once I'm up from the actual dream, it takes a little bit just for me to calm down, just my heart beating and stuff. I've woken up in sweats before from these.
Have you done any sort of mindfulness?
Not really. I mean, I think a lot, but I haven't done like any sort of like, meditation or yoga, which would probably help too.
Yeah, there's also body scans where it's like progressive muscle relaxation, where you kind of start from your head and go down your body to your toes, and that can sometimes have a way of grounding you if you're in the middle of a heart pounding. But honestly, getting up to get some water can reset things as well. Getting up and going to the bathroom, get a glass of water before you just immediately try to go back to sleep.
I've always been a light sleeper too, so it's like, sometimes when you're up, it's just like, you're up. I think we'll be alright as a whole through this. I think I will get back to my regular sleep. It's just, again, still all fresh.
Absolutely.
These images are just embedded in my brain right now, and it's like little things like the smell was weird, and like it wasn't just the visual, like, oh my gosh, I saw him. It's like who it was, how he did it, the smell. It was like the whole just putting yourself in that position is it was a lot. And then when I first saw him, and then I called 911, I didn't know what to think. You know what I mean? So it was like I knew he was gone.
But did you not know he did it to himself?
At first I didn't know, but you could kind of tell after like looking, like, the knife was still right there. It was his wrist and all that. It wasn't like a murder. You know what I mean? Yeah. There was no signs of like struggle. There was no forced entry. You know what I mean? I had a key to his back door, so I'm the one that walked in. Like, the house was locked. I mean, there was no one else would have been able to even get in there without breaking in. And then, of course, the cops asked me 20 questions. You know what I mean? Like, did you see this coming? I'm like, no. They're like, it just, that was a whole other level of stuff, too. I almost felt like I had to defend myself.
Right.
So... And then the 20 questions with his mom, too, because she was just...
Did you have to tell her?
I told her I found him and he was gone and all that. And so she ended up coming there, too. The cops wouldn't let her in. She didn't need to be seeing that.
Yeah.
They basically covered him up and all that and brought him out.
That had to be hard telling her, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And of course, she's like, well, did you know anything? The biggest thing I tell people, if I would have known anything, I would have done something about it. There wasn't like some major red flags. And I could see like a little bit, like, maybe he was drinking a little more than usual, or some sort of like mild form of like he's going through something and just wants to let loose, but nothing like this. I mean, I don't even know how you could handle carrying a weight like that. But for the most part, he was happy in the sense, like when we had conversation, it was like laughing, like there was good times. There was. It wasn't like he was a depressed person or like, somebody didn't want to be around because they were negative, and
Mhm.
you know what I mean. We had good times.
Could he possibly have hid it? The depression and the dark side.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. I
So-
just thought I would have seen it.
Yeah. I definitely hear a theme of guilt throughout what you're talking
Just
about.
because we were close,
Yeah.
and you kind of think like, you know what's going on
Mhm.
with people in their lives,
Mhm.
and so this was definitely like, it blew my mind. I was like, why would he do this? How could he do this? And again, I wonder how much thought he actually put into doing it for him before he actually did it too.
Right, because you said it was, I mean, very, very gruesome.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was something that he just kind of recently started thinking about and just did it instead of like something that he was carrying with him for a long period of time. Because to me, in our previous times together, I just think something would have kind of stuck out. But then again, it's not like I was looking for it either.
No, right.
So it's hard.
So how are you going to take care of you this week?
I'll call up a doctor, talk to them.
Do you have a doctor, like a primary care?
Not fully. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure you could recommend somebody.
I really don't have primary care doctors, but I would just go, look through your insurance.
Yeah.
Definitely go with someone close through your insurance.
Yeah. And then maybe start by having something to help sleep.
Yeah.
And that
Okay.
way I can wake up the next day and just have like a good feeling, be energized, and then really start getting into working out again and getting healthy in that regard.
Sounds like a healthy habit.
Yeah. And then really just focusing on my wife too.
Okay.
And kind of bringing that together.
Patching that
up and maybe doing all this as a family. You know what I mean? More family
Okay.
time.
So maybe some more family time, since that is a sense of joy for you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you for meeting with me. I'll still continue to see your little girl.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you seeing me.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
maybe I'll see you again in like a month or something.
Yeah, and I mean we'll be in touch because I'll always fill you in on our sessions with her.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
You too.